You tried to murder my son, and now I'm coming for you. These are the words of Chris Eubank Senior when talking to Spencer Ferron and Tunde Ajayi on their podcast. You tried to murder my son, and now I'm coming for you. You see, there's a lot of things I could say about this, and I am going to. But I'll take it from a personal experience first before we go into this. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to BWTM Sports Gaming. If you haven't subscribed already, please do consider hitting the subscribe button and also become a member as well. Really appreciate it. This video is a little different to the usual videos I do, as you'll notice. Started with Chris Eubank Senior, front and middle of this screen, and I'm not speechless. I'm not speechless. The boxing community often turn a blind eye to that which they know is wrong, but will still push through it. There are people, including promoters, that if they could, would have allowed that fight to go ahead. There are people, even listening into this show now, that if they could, they would have allowed that fight to go on. Even if Ben was juiced to his eyeballs, up to his eyeballs, they would have allowed that fight to go on. And that, I'm afraid to say, is some of the sort of people that we're dealing with here, and sort of people that are sadly a part of this sport. They will overlook things time and time and time again just to ensure that they get their fix. It doesn't matter who gets hurt. It doesn't matter who gets damaged. It doesn't matter who speaks out about it. As long as they get to see the fight, that's all they care. And of course, I'm one of those people that would love to have seen this fight, but not at the expense of the life of another fighter. Hell no. Not even a guy, even if it's a guy I don't particularly like. I wouldn't want them to be in a position where they couldn't afterwards look after their family or look after their kids. How many people afterwards care about Jerome McLennan or any of the other fighters that have been damaged, hurt, killed by this sport we call boxing that we love? You see, Eubank Senior, English, at times people look at and laugh at with great contempt because he speaks in a manner, in a way. Nobody ever questions his heart, his guts, his determination as a fighter. But he was hated in the UK. And when they actually started to love Eubank? It's when he lost. It's when he lost to Collins. It's when he lost to Carl Thompson. That's when the British fans got behind Eubank. Those people. That's how it was. When he lost, that's when people supported Eubank. But when he was on that big winning run, nobody gave a fart about Eubank. That's the truth. Good evening to you, Shook One. That's the truth. There are many times I've been on this channel, and those of you who care to listen, I've told you about what these people are like. And these people are celebrated like they're kings and gods, these promoters, one in particular. And I've said it over and over again. This man is about the money. He doesn't care about his fighters. He doesn't care about the fighters. You go there, you sign with the promoter, and if you can fight, that's okay. That's your saving grace. But he will throw you under the bus. He doesn't care about you. He just cares about whether the numbers add up. And to be honest, I don't think he's even that good an accountant, to be fair, because when it adds up, if he'd looked after the fighters better, if you think about it, he'd have had quite a few pay-per-view stars sticking fighters in fights when they're not ready. You see, I say that fighters fight in patterns, but people generally do the same things over and over and over again if they think they can get away with it. If they think they can get away with it, they will. I will definitely come to your comments afterwards, but I want to really air this one out tonight. They will get away with things for as much as possible as they can. You know, there'd be more criminals, more thieves, more. This is the truth, yeah. If people didn't have a fear of God or a fear of getting caught, whether it be a fear of God or fear of getting caught, there'd be more criminals, there'd be more dishonest people. But it's the fear of getting caught. That's the concern. That's why a lot of people don't do what they do, because they're scared of getting caught or the opinions of others. The fear of getting caught, the fear of being arrested, consequences. But if they could get away with it without consequences, they'll do again and again and again and again. And there are people like that in this world that will do things and they'll leave a path of absolute dirt behind each time they do it. But because they've got money and they've got power and they've got influence, they feel that they are infallible. But you see, karma comes round. And the thing is, when you continue going pissing people off and you continue going around throwing your weight around and throwing your money around and la-di-da, apples and pears, when you do this stuff, eventually it comes back to, and remember I said this, more and more people, before it was, oh yeah, let's sign with him because he's a great promoter, he's got a lot of money. But when people begin to dislike you and the tables begin to shift and you no longer can offer what you could have offered before, then you find out who your friends are, or you begin to find out who your real enemies are as well. This release through the media is quite funny. I find it quite funny because the same media you're trying to control is the same media that's outed you and exposed you for what you really are. Now, as I said, history we can learn from. We really can learn from history. And if we go back, let me take you back to just before negotiations between Chris Eubank Jr. and Gennady Golovkin. And the Eubanks were accused of losing their pen. Let's look at that a little bit more in detail. So now, Eubank at the time was being put in the firing line to fight Gennady Golovkin. He had no business being in the ring of Gennady Golovkin, to be honest, at that time. So what do? They stick Kell Brook in there, a welterweight, in with a middleweight. And not just a middleweight, but a powerful punching middleweight. Stick Kell Brook in. Think about Kell Brook at the time. He was unbeaten. You can't say he wasn't a ticket seller, because he was a ticket seller. He was unbeaten. He'd come off beating Sean Porter. He was unbeaten. He was ready to go to that next level. What did they do? They stuck him in with Gennady Golovkin. Broke his orbital bone. Remember that fight? Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, daring to be great. Yeah, right. And everyone said, oh, Eubank lost his pen. Eubank lost his pen and made Eubank the laughing stock. But nobody knows what was going on behind closed doors. Eubank knew what was going on behind closed doors. And let me take you to one thing further. Let's go back even further. Remember those interviews that Eubank was doing, Eubank Senior was doing about intellectual property. And he was talking about how he was treated as a fighter and how he didn't want his son to go through certain things. What were those things that Eubank Senior didn't want his son to go through? You see, while Eubank Senior says these things, and I'm gonna come back to what he said about I'm coming for you, you tried to murder my son. And then he says he had nothing to do with that actual fight not happening. But he said he wanted to pull his son out. So in my opinion, I believe he knew beforehand with this CONOR BENN fight. He knew. And I said it on this show about Eubank losing that weight. When you're that age, 32, and you are 160 pounds, and when you get to 160 pounds, you have got absolutely nothing on you. And then you're trying to bring a man down by 3 pounds. People that don't understand boxing will say, oh, yeah, you're getting nutritionist for free. He'll get a nutritionist and he'll bring it down £3. Yeah, right. And then the rehydration clause. I mean, it wasn't like he was going to lose that weight and then have a proper rehydration clause. He was able to rehydrate to whatever weight he wanted to. So let's go back a bit. Eubank, and this is where I have a problem with Eubank Senior. When he was having his, I remember his career distinctly. And when he was going for his career as a pro, he made a pact with Barry Hearn, Eddie Hearn's father. And he says, you get me beat, I'm out of here. So he fought opponents. He fought guys that were below his level, let's say. And until he fought Nigel Benton, there's another guy, I can't remember his name again, threw good body shots and he hurt Eubank in that fight. I think the guy was from up like Birmingham way. Mellin is a long time ago. Yeah, and I think I remember him wearing light blue shorts. And he hurt Eubank to the body a few times. Now remember, Eubank was going to fight Mike McCallum, and they swerved that fight to make the fight with Nigel Benn. But if you look at Eubank's career was well managed. And there's no way that Chris Eubank Senior would have fought Billy Joe Saunders at that period of his life. At that time, he would never have done so. He would never have done so. So he says, well, I'm advising my son. But at the same time, you actually the reason why your son lost the fight to Billy Joe Saunders. All that parade in the ring, what exact information were you giving him that night? It was about you. So where he talks about his son, him and his son, sort of like his son losing respect for him, I'm sure that fight has haunted Eubank Jr. since, because people would have whispered in his ear and said things to him about, what the hell was your dad doing in the corner at night? Making a fool of you and making a fool of himself. And then Eubank himself in that corner was telling Ronnie Davies to shut up. Things have healed. Obviously, those two are still working together. Now, if you look at how much, in terms of emotion, Ben and Eubank had the two fights, particularly the first fight, there was such a bad blood between the two guys. And Eubank was very disdainful towards Ben. He said Ben had no class. You listen to Eubank Senior today, I'm coming for you. And you listen to the words and the intensity of that man. At no point in time, in the two fights he had, or the three fights, or 3 times he met with Nigel Benn, did he have that sort of tone to his demeanor when he was on that phone. Never have I seen Eubank. And I've met Eubank. I lived in the same area as Eubank. I often, when I used to be training and run along the seafront in Brighton, I would often bump into Eubank on my way running along the Brighton seafront. I'd run along while he was doing autographs and bring out his red Ferrari. You see Ronnie, I still, up till recently, I saw Ronnie as well down by the Brighton Marina. So, Eubank would stop in the street and I'd talk to him about boxing all the time, come to the gym. So I knew Eubank. I knew of the Eubanks. And that's why I said when his son turned pro, his father would have seen him his son take a beating and turn his back. And if his son had come back from a beating, he would let him fight and turn pro. And then it came out somewhere, I think he was sparring a heavyweight or something. It came out how Eubank, that was the moment where Eubank said, yeah, his son was ready to fight. I knew that, the Eubank mentality. But for Eubank to use the words, you tried to murder my son. Not you tried to injure my son or you tried to do damage to my son. No, you tried to murder my son. Eubank is not a guy that just comes out and uses words for the sake of using words. So he was very intentional about what he was saying. He knew who he was identifying, and he also knew the makeup of the people that were around the BENN and Eubank matchup. He knew of the clowns, the inexperience. And I can tell you, and I'm not even a boxer, right? I can tell you from working in the media about these people, some of these people. And they're arrogant beyond belief. Devils is what I will call them. Devils. Devils. It's nothing but money. They don't see individuals, they just see money. And all these people who jump on Frank Warren and say, Frank is this, and Frank's that, Frank's this. I've told you, Frank has his ways. I'm not saying Frank is perfect. But when you talk about substance, that man is more substance. As for Eubank Senior, why did he want to have nothing to do with it? Well, if you look at Eubank Jr. and the way Eubank Jr. was talking, I mean, this whole fight of him and Conor, if you look at Eubank's whole personality, the way he started to sort of open up in a very free sort of way, and talking about the way he was talking and the way he was moving, very free out of his dad's shadow. Eubank clearly wasn't happy with the way Eubank was going about his career. Clearly, he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with the people he was keeping company with. He wasn't happy with the vision his son has for his life and the sort of people that his son idolizes. His son doesn't even idolize him. He idolizes people like Floyd Mayweather. So Eubanks made that very clear. And he kind of turned patois in Jamaican and say, if you can't hear, you must feel. But he stopped at that point. He didn't want his son to feel so much where he could have lost him. So Eubank is acting like a father or behaving like a father, any father would do. And anybody who slams Eubank for being the way that he was on that phone call is an irresponsible father. I'm sorry. But he was being a father. Now, he tried to talk to Chris Jr. about it, and Chris Jr. was still adamant about taking the fight. But Chris Jr. probably didn't know what he was letting himself in for. He probably didn't know. The fact he hasn't been that weight since he was 18 years old, he's now 32 years old, that's danger right there. I'll give you an example of what could have happened on the night. Oscar De La Hoya, his last fight before he fought Pacquiao was 160 pounds. He hadn't weighed 147 pounds for I don't know how many years. He went below 147 pounds. He went to, I think he weighed in 142, 143 pounds to show that he could make the weight and kind of like be competitive with Pacquiao. And what you saw of Oscar De La Hoya was a shell of himself. A guy that was nowhere ready. He was weight drained. You look at De La Hoya in that fight, nothing like the De La Hoya. He couldn't pull the trigger. He couldn't throw punches. He was slow. He was there to be hit. And that's probably what could have happened to Chris Eubank Senior, Jr. History is the best teacher. It's the best teacher. So he said he talked to Conor BENN as well. So there are many questions to ask. Eubank Senior side, he knew what was going on. The promoters knew what was going on. The Boxing Board of Control knew what was going on. But the Boxing Board of Control pulled a stop on the fight. They had to. VADA are saying one thing. Now UCAD's going to have to say something about it. Now, we saw what happened with UCAD and Tyson Fury. And people kind of still want to brush that under the carpet. But it is what it is. You see, there's one thing about boxing fans I don't get. It's like there's one rule for your favorite fighter and there's another rule for a guy you don't like. So like, if Canelo is a drug cheat, it's okay because he's the face of boxing. But if Liam Cameron does it, then yeah, he can get the 4 years. Drew Miller got like suspended or banned from boxing for how many years? And he got caught 3 times. And they banned him. But Povetkin got caught 3 times and he got pay-per-view shows. Luis Ortiz got caught. He was on pay-per-view or pay-per-view. Was it pay-per-view? He was sort of headlining fighter against Dave Allen and against Malik Scott. That's 2 right there. Yet the situation with Dillian White. Need I go on any further? But it just seems like there's one rule for your favorite fighters, another rule for guys you don't care for, or one rule for one promoter. Yeah, so he can have drug cheats on his. He can have drug cheats on his card. But if he has drug cheats on his card, it's not right. Or yeah, I like him because I like him. He's my fighter. So even if he's a drug cheat, it don't matter. He's still my favorite fighter. He's not been beaten, so it's all right. If you are caught, like now, Hearn is saying, he said in one interview, if these guys get caught, they should be jailed. So VADA said, you guys been caught. You guys banged to rights here. And you've been using a masking agent to cover up whatever you've been using. So then he's not saying, he's innocent until proven guilty. No, bro. If he's innocent until proven guilty, then why did they cancel the fight? Why did the British Boxing Board of Control cancel the fight if we're working from innocent until proven guilty? I don't get it. So the British Boxing Board of Control knew something was up. And they did what in the interest of boxing. So, wait. The whole thing with Dillian White and the B sample. The night that he fought Oscar Rivas, was that in the interest of boxing? Povetkin got caught 3 times. Was that in the interest of boxing? Canelo, superstar boxer. Was that in the interest of boxing? Okay, different commissions. But was that in the interest of boxing? And let's go further. What does it mean by the interest of boxing? So, if Conor BENN is innocent, then is that in the interest of the fighter, the fighter's career, the fighter's reputation? Can he come back from that? And Hearn say, oh, well, he's not been suspended yet. And you're the same guy that panned Jarrell Miller and then talked about Canelo in one breath and said he's a drug cheat. So what's going on? What's going on? I'll tell you what needs to happen. VADA and the British Box and UCAD need to team up. That's what needs to happen. UCAD and VADA need to team up. And the investigation needs to go further. That's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen. And if Eubank said he's coming for them, what is Eubank Senior coming with? Obviously, he's not coming with a left and a right, but he's come with something. What dirt has Eubank Senior got? What does he know that he's able to say, I'm coming for you? So let's go through this. Let's go through what people are saying tonight. Senior gonna do another M charge, LOL, and beat it. Good evening, Chewingham. Good evening, Shook. I saw that Eubank Jr. made weight, but looked really vascular, and you could tell that he did some real dehydration. That's not taking water from your organs, but your brain. Now, Eubank Senior, while he talks about dangerous losing weight, I know for a fact that Eubank used to starve himself to make the weight. He used to starve himself to make the weight. So that tells you how strong Eubank was. He starved himself to make weight. So if you talk about dangerous ways of making weight, he starved himself. Tells you how strong that man really is. Eubank Senior, Murder, She Wrote season to Eddie Hearn Matchroom. Oh, on the subject of Murder, She Wrote, the actress, the beautiful, amazing actress, Angela Lansbury, who starred as the detective on Murder, She Wrote, passed away, aged 96 years old. So rest in peace, Angela. Rest in peace. Evening, Snazzy. Shook says, as a father to sons, I can say that you try your utmost to advise and protect sons, but sometimes it takes experience to teach hot-headed young men. Yeah, but this infutable truth from BWTM yet again. Thank you very much. Sorry if you've already mentioned it, but did you see the Mail has said that they're investigating a second failed drugs test from CONOR BENN? That's probably the B sample. Eddie Hearn Tower crumbling, BWTN Sports. Good. Ben Defo been popping for a while. Remember, Sean Porter had to come down from 147 to 145 to fight Broner, and he had rehydration clause, and he was not nearly as explosive in fighting that, got dropped in the 12. I don't think Eubank Senior and Ben wanted any part of James Toney. Well managed, but well established. I don't know. Not every great boxer can be a good trainer promoter. Ask Floyd Mayweather. Good Lord. Lord protects us from the scourge of TMT. James Johnson. Big up, Ingram. God bless, brother. God bless you too. So amazing that you got to meet Eubank and others out while training. Belonging to the brotherhood of boxing is such an honor. It is indeed. It is indeed. Denise Wards, I love you so much and I miss you so much. I really do. Leif says, Chris Eubank Sr. had Ronnie Davis holding a spit bucket in early Eubank Jr. spot. He did. He did. So, people, I hope and I pray this whole thing gets blown open and that in the interest of boxing, British Boxing Board of Control, that you do the right thing and you don't leave it just there. They say that VADA doesn't do investigations. And I think VADA and the British Boxing Board of Control should team up. for the sport of boxing in general, for the interest of boxing in the UK. There are people in America now thinking, God, how many drug cheats have they got in the UK? They're going to be asking the question. They're going to be asking questions of, I mean, this has done Matchroom absolutely no favors. I mean, they were dipping as it was, but this it's like another nail in the coffin, to be honest. But I don't know. Not my business, and I don't care. What I do care is that in the interest of boxing, can Conor Benn come back from this? I don't know. But if you look at the Conor Benn that fought against that novice guy, and he was going life and death against him, and people say to themselves, God, this Conor Benn, he ain't going to do nothing. And then the next minute, we turn and look at the Conor Benn, and he's sparking out Chris Algieri and what's the other guy, the South African? Van Heerderen. I'm like, what? So, I don't know. You tell me. The unfortunate part about this is that the science is always just half a step behind the best doping. Very difficult unless a man from the dark side defects and spills the secrets. We want a clean sport, but it's difficult knowing what's going on. Oh, well, I'll tell you one thing. More stuff is going to come out. More stuff is... I think I said this year. I said this year is the year where a lot of things in darkness is going to come to light. I think I said it at the beginning of this year. I said it, that this is the year of disclosure. I said it for the beginning of this year is the year of disclosure. I said it. And what we're getting now, we're getting disclosure. I remember Paulie Malignaggi said he didn't blame Marquez for doping in the full fight against Pac-Man. As Paulie said, it was self-defense. Sad, really. Oh, I remember also saying, oh, was it after Price got knocked out by a drug cheat? I said, you know what? I said, at this point, you may as well just make it like forget the drug testing, because at the end of the day, no matter who you drug test, there's always somebody somewhere who's going to be breaking the rules. Either that or you make the test more stringent. But according to Sarge Usman, or Usman Sarge, doctor, and it's on the channel, and thank you to Boxing Knowledge for bringing it out. He says that between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. that VADA can't touch you or something like that. So you can cycle it off between the hours of 11 o'clock and 7 a.m., supposedly. I always wonder why an athlete from another sport doesn't speak out about boxers getting off positive tests. Why doesn't the runner Ben Johnson speak out about this? He lost his career. Actually, I was trying to speak to an old friend, Larry Olibomewu, because Larry got caught, and I did speak to him about it. He said that he would, when he's free, he'll come on the show and talk about it. When I started seeing a lot of guys looking like bodybuilders rather than boxers in the late 90s, and Lee Haney being an advisor to certain boxers, I thought, geez, oh wow. How much more stringent testing can we do on guys? Going to the DNA using CRISPR? Sheesh. I think I wonder. I think they should do the test at the weigh-in. They should do a test at the weigh-in. They should do a test before the fight. And they should do a test after the fight. And then they should do a test 2 or 3 days after the fight again. So at the weigh-in, at the check weigh-in, at the weigh-in, before the fight, and after the fight, we should do tests, all those tests, and they should be all mandatory tests. I thought Chris Algieri, who's a dietitian, gave a very thorough and interesting vantage point on what should be done for more stringent testing. Isn't a test at a weigh-in too late? Well, if they're caught, well, that can never be too late, can it? I mean, if you're caught during the weigh-in and you bang to rights, what would you rather? That person get in the ring and fight and put on a devastating performance? We find out afterwards they're a cheat. I mean, I don't know. Some boxers like Danny Garcia and Andre Ward had year-round Olympic-style testing. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe year-round might be an answer. Don't know. Don't know. But it ain't right. It ain't right. Maybe they could bring in one championship testing. They check not just for drugs, but also tip-offs in hydration percentages and weight. Very thorough. It's interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. But something has to be done. But I want to know how Eubank Senior is going to come for them. That's what I want to know. How is Eubank Senior going to come for them? I'm really interested to know how Eubank Senior is going to come for them. I hope he does, and I hope he gets every single one of them. Because they don't care. They really don't care. And those fighters as well. Because if the B sample comes back, the A sample's been... Why would the B sample be any different from the A sample? If I pee into a bottle, pee to one bottle, what? Or I pee into one bottle, then you split the bottle in half, or split the pee in half, one tube into another tube. How is one tube going to have one result, and another tube going to have another tube? It's ridiculous. So, I don't know. We're not talking about guys dribbling the ball. We're talking about a full-on combat. We need to protect fighters. Of course we do. I thought Eubank said they're coming for you, as in a dodgy promoters and managers. No, I thought he says, I'm coming for you. I thought he said, I'm coming for you. Well, we'll soon find out. Imagine if Eubank Senior used some of the Freedom of Information Act and blew the door open on all these dirty guys. Yeah, well, I'd like to know who it was that, who from the Daily Mail, how did they get the information? And like I said before, why did they do that? And yeah, I know what they did, but why did they do it? Was it a vendetta? Was it another person at the Daily Mail was it somebody that Hearn had pissed off? I wonder. The only way you could claim innocence is if they took a hair follicle sample and then it came back negative. Then you could say there was a mistake. Otherwise, he did it. Wow. Wow. Another thing, all those fighters now that have been like Chris Algieri and, of course, Van Heerderen, those guys, have they got a valid case now to say, well, I got knocked out by a drug cheat? Samuel Vargas, can he turn around and say he got knocked out by a drug cheat? And any guy that's been beaten by a drug cheat previously, can they now turn up and say, you know what, I got beat by a drug cheat, therefore, I think this needs to be taken off my record? It's at times like this, I know Ingram has to be saying, bruv, moving made out here. Gareth A. Davis said no one was to hold on to information like that. The news is too big. No one's going to hold on to information. The news is too big. Okay. Chris Algieri is a dietitian, sports medicine specialist. He might know better than anyone else who's dirty and who's clean. Well, if you go back, and there's a couple of guys I spoke to. I think I spoke to, I think it might have been Uncle Bashir, and it would have been Abel Sanchez. He says some of the ways you can find of somebody who's on PEDs is that they've got lots of rage within them before a fight, lots of rage, erratic rage. And he says you look at the back of them, they've got spots on their face and stuff. So I don't know. Didn't Conor BENN also have a chin transplant or something? Because I remember that time he was out of boxing. He went out of boxing, he got injured, he broke his jaw or something. And then he came back. And after that, he kept talking about, a guy kept talking about smashing in the gym. Oh, I'm smashing in the gym, smashing in the gym. He kept talking about all the time about how he's smashing it. He used to overemphasize on it. I'm smashing it on the gym. It's very few fighters that I know that talk about smashing in the gym. It's just what you do. I remember Carl Froch used to say, he used to record his times. But BENN would always talk about smashing it in the gym. It makes you wonder now, some of the things he was saying. I mean, maybe I'm looking into it like too deeply, but why every time somebody talks to you, oh, yeah, I'm smashing it in the gym, mate. Yeah, smashing it in the gym. And I'm like, really? You're the only guy in boxing that's smashing it in the gym? You're the only one who gets personal best? I mean, clearly, your job as a professional fighter is to train. And you're always hyping about what you're doing in the gym and you're smashing it and you're breaking this record and you're breaking that record. Yeah. And you're improving so quickly. It makes you wonder, It does make you wonder. Crushing the gym, mate. Beard transplant. Yeah, he did have something. He did have something, Dante. Have you spoken to Coach Chris about this scandal, Ingram? Well, he's been saying it for years about British boxing. So, dare I pick up a phone to him? My aunt used to be one of the sports investigators for anti-doping in the US. Wow. She said almost everyone we think of in the WWE Olympics and the like are dirty. Took my breath away. Yeah, I've heard stories as well of guys who've had fights, and their promoters or their managers will not pay for their brain scan and get them to fight. Smashing the gym, crushing in the gym, mate. Crushing in the gym, he said, mate. Crushing it in the gym. Smash, yeah, I'm crushing it in the gym, mate. I just think to myself, you're the only professional athlete in the world that is constantly talking about crushing in the gym, mate. And I'm like, I've never, you don't hear Mayweather talk about crushing in the gym, or if Froch would say it, but he'd say like, I've got my black book, and he'll talk about that black book, but that's just Froch. That's Froch is meticulous. That's what he's like that. And if you look at him and the way he talks and the way he behaves, you can imagine him like in his house. You can imagine if you go in his house, he'd know where every book is in the house. He'd know where everything is, everything. If you move one book out of place, Froch would know. Froch is just that type of guy. But I don't know. I know Carl Froch was clean. Guy was just a Neanderthal. Iceman was thawed out. Moved to Nottingham and named Carl. Chin of iron. But led with his head in fights he did. Beard transplant and testosterone boost makes you think. Yeah, because when he came back, he wasn't the same fighter. I'm going to say this, yeah, and people will laugh at me, yeah, but do you remember $1 Million Crawler? You remember $1 Million Crawler wasn't that great. He was not being funny. I'm not being disrespectful to him, right? But he was a garbage fighter. I hate to say it was garbage, yeah. He got hit over the head and he came back. He became a world champion. And he made a couple of defenses of the world title. And he looked better than ever. And I don't say to myself, how the hell do you get whacked over your head and come back and be a better fighter than before you got whacked over your head? got over the head with a crowbar or something like that. So how do you come back and be a better fighter than you were before? And I'm not suggesting he was on anything, but there's an example there of how do you get from that to that? I don't know. And the other thing is now, here's a situation. If the British Boxing Board of Control say that Conor Benn is clean, but VADA say that he is dirty, then would you think twice about the British Boxing Board of Control's testing, or UCAD, in fact? Would you look back at UCAD and go, hold on, VADA are saying this, but UCAD are saying there's nothing wrong, he's fine. You know what, bruv? And then Ben would just start raging at people and press roll. And then local media, what the hell happened? Now we know. Wasn't like that before. That's true. Jason Too Smooth Booth. Oh, no, Jason Booth was all right. He was a good fighter. Well, I don't know if he... I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know anymore, mate. I just don't know. Because I don't want to be a hypocrite now and say because he was a guy that I thought was Too Smooth Booth was a good fighter. I can imagine a British border control saying, nah, mate, Ben Lance Armstrong's clean. Oh, just what the hell? I mean, what was that? Like, you can't... You're saying, like, my son is clean, but if he's clean, why is the fight being cancelled? And now they're talking about if Eubank fights Ben again, or if they actually fight, that he's going to fight at his normal weight. So, well, why didn't they do that in the first place? Tony Sims says that he's always trained clean fighters. He don't know anything about what Ben's done. So, okay, if that's the case, is it possible for Ben to have been spiked? Could he have been spiked? Is it possible? I mean, if you're not going to call him guilty and you say, well, he's innocent, then all right, innocent until proven guilty. Or well, how can you even go down to innocent until proven guilty? Because this country, UK, is always about innocent until proven guilty. In America, it's like you're guilty until you're proven innocent. So where are we now with this? Is it innocent until proven guilty? Is it guilty until proven innocent? Because at the moment, it seems to me that the Ben situation is he's guilty and now he's got to prove his innocence. But look, there have been so many fighters that have been caught with performance enhancing drugs, not just Conor now. So many fighters, so many great fighters have been caught as well. This stuff is heavy. I don't know what we could do to be sure of a clean sport. Hell, doping stuff has come out in tennis. Tennis, man, you hold a racket. The only way to be sure it was spiked false result is you take a hair sample. If it's spiked, the hair sample will come back negative. If possible, Bob's your uncle. Yeah, Bob may have left town, though, mate. Bob may have left town at the same time Eubank left town. He went to South Africa. Imagine Eubank is all the way in South Africa. I might pop over and see him, actually. He's all the way in South Africa. What a time to go to South Africa, eh? When all the shit was about to kick off, he's far away. Smart. All right, let me end this now. Please do leave your comments in the comment section. The questions I'm going to ask is, why was it leaked? Gareth A. Davis says a lot of things, but I don't really take Gareth A. Davis seriously. I remember once talking to Gareth A. Davis, and he said to me, I said, are you a fan of boxing? No, I'm not a fan of boxing. I'm just a reporter. I'm not a fan of boxing. All right, mate. Fair enough then. So, but yet, every time the fighters are around, you run into them like, you know, I don't know. I'm sitting a rage, mate. Why would Ben be raging like that? Unless he's coming down with from something. Let's be having it. Let's be having it. So, and there are people out there going like father, like son. Is it really a case that was Ben on something himself? A lot of people said Ben was on it. I don't know. But I certainly know that Ben back in the day with all that we are E. You remember we are E. Do you remember that? We are E when he came out to fight. Who did Ben fight? I think Vincenzo Nardiello. We are E. He had those dreads. We're having it. We're having it tonight. So I don't know. I don't know if the testing was around then or what it was like then. But I know that Ben outside of boxing, you know, he certainly was on something outside of boxing for sure. For sure. I don't know anymore, mate. I don't know either, mate. I don't know. But Eubank Senior, you're a stand-up guy. I know a lot of guys can be hotheads, and there's a different type. That's a different type of issue, but maybe something else in play. Well, I don't know. And then with the testing, question is, before I finish, these people who do the testing, are they independent? And how independent are they? Just like the judges and the referees. I remember saying this a long time ago. Last year when I was in Worthing, or year before last, I was in Worthing. I sat down in the park. And I had said to you that the promoter and the referee and the judges are usually in the same hotel. You tell me. If that is not a conflict of interest, then what is? If they're having year-round Olympic testing, there's always that doubt in my mind. Well, that's what needs to happen. What's other ones? Kid Galahad's another one as well. Was it Kid Galahad that got caught? Who else got caught? Billy Joe Saunders got caught. A whole load of fighters have been caught. The one fighter that I always thought was on it, but never actually got caught, was David Haye. And I love David Haye, right? But I always thought he was on something. I always thought David Haye was on something. But he never got caught. Who? I don't know. Galahad got popped. Never watched him again after that. Ingram, did you see Teddy Atlas' podcast? He reckons 89% of them are doing it as well. And he's trained at the highest level. Yes. I've had this conversation with quite a few professional boxers, and they have admitted it themselves. And I'm talking about, they're like, I don't know how to explain this to you, but just because I don't have certain fighters on my channel anymore, it doesn't mean I'm not in contact with them. The thing is, sometimes less is more. I've come to understand. And there's some of the stuff I've seen, some of the contracts I've seen, some of the stuff I've heard. I've heard stuff with fighters that may start with 250,000. And then as they go into their second and third fight, they're on like 100,000, 75,000. Now, how does that work out? You start with 250,000 and you end on 75,000. I mean, I don't get that. That's an example. Do you think there are elite fighters that are actually clean? Yeah, I think they are. David Haye in his time was a colossus. Guy was massive. Yeah, if you look at Haye, look at Haye now. He looks like a middleweight. he looks like a middleweight if you look at David Haye now. So I don't know. You know, the other guy was Vladimir Klitschko. You look at Vladimir Klitschko before fights, and then you look at him. You look at him before fights, and you look at him come fight night. I always thought it was Vladimir as well, but again, you know, you don't. And who's the other guy? Who's the pop? He popped the pill before he fought. Who's that guy? Oh gosh. See, now I fought Danny Garcia. Luke Matisse. He on live TV popped a pill before he went and fought. Nobody mentioned. People saw it but said nothing about it. I'd love to hear Bashir's thoughts on this. He must know it all. Bashir said it many a times. He's talked about it on the channel many times. Watch in the next year. We're going to hear about DIDNT, doping in self-defense. He did it first. I was just trying to protect myself in the ring. Yeah, that's coming. That's coming. That's definitely coming. Definitely coming. So before that even happens, we've got to do. They've got to do something about it, and soon. Right. Let me get out of here because there's other shows I've got to do as well. I've got to get 2 or 3 shows in tonight. All right. Thank you all for watching. Please make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the join button, become a member so you can join us. And you know what I want to do as for members? I want to start mentioning members, and I want to start doing a talk show where members can start, like the members, I can start thanking members and getting them on doing live talk show with them. Coming on the show and talking, because I really would love to hear what you sound like. I know what some of you sound like. Shout out to Leif Gramerson. Got a lot of love and support for that brother. Very supportive, on camera and off camera. And I wanted to say thank you so much. A genuine brother, very supportive, and thank you so much, Leif. I really appreciate you. I can't begin to express how much I'm grateful of support. And thank you to you members that are still, you know, every month still supporting the channel. I really appreciate you. That is an encouragement for myself to put these videos out there. It is difficult, you know, to put these videos out at times because, you know, I'm not where I used to be, as I say, and other things I'm doing now, as you can see on the channel. So, yeah. But yeah, thank you all so much. I appreciate you all. I'll come back and do some other videos. Much love to you all. Thanks for watching. Kush Eubank Senior, you are a real man. You're a real man. And I appreciate you for standing and being the father that you are to your son. And yeah. Appreciate you. And I appreciate you all for watching as well. And if you get a chance, please do 2 things. First of all, please subscribe to my other YouTube channel where you can see what I'm doing during my week. This is what I do during my week. Please do the Lagos Cricket Academy TV. Check it out there. Please do go across and subscribe to that channel. Really appreciate it. Of course,